Hello everybody and welcome to another glorious tutorial video. I was going to do one about the pneumatic tubes, but there are parts of it which still confuse me and I haven't quite mastered yet. So I'm going to cover the circuitry, the Redpower 2 circuitry. But first, I'm going to cover the wires, because Redpower wires totally kick butt. I love them. They're so much easier to use than redstone. First thing we're going to cover is just the simple red alloy wire. And basically it runs pretty much like redstone wire, except it can go up sides of blocks and it can go under blocks, and it's really useful. For example, see? Now, what we can also see is that because it went up the side of this block, it electrified this block, which powers this piston. But because it's not going up this block, it's not actually touching this block, and it doesn't electrify this side either. And as we can also see, the wire just went straight into this piston and powers it. Now, one thing to note about this wire is that anything it touches becomes electrified. So all the blocks underneath this wire, and if you put it underneath a block, like on the bottom of a block, those blocks will be electrified. So when you give signal to it, it will activate those blocks. This is an insulated wire. Now, there's a bunch of different colors of insulated wire, as you can see here. And the reason for that is they won't attach to each other. Like this white insulated wire won't attach to this red insulated wire. Plus, it also insulates itself from the blocks it's touching. So, if we turn this on, like if we just had the red alloy wire there, that block would become electrified and power that piston. But it doesn't. That's because it's an insulated wire. Now, the insulated wires will still connect to Redpower items and power them directly. You don't have to connect the insulated wire to uninsulated wire for it to work. This is a bundled cable. Now, it comes in a few different colors as well. As we can see here, we just have the regular bundled cable, we have white bundled cable, orange bundled cable, and pretty much all of the colors. And the idea for that is, that's because this is uncolored. That's why it's connecting. So if I get a different color, like the gray color, the gray will not attach to the white, but the white and all the other colors will attach to the uncolored bundles that I'm using here. Now, the point of these bundles is so that you can run multiple colors of insulated wire down one single path. So right here, I'm just using one block instead of two. And it works pretty much like you would expect. You send a signal up the red cable, it comes out the red cable. But it does not come out the white cable. Same can be said for the white cable. And this can be done with all of the different colors of the wires as well. This cable, this is a fun little cable. It is the jacketed wire. That's this one right here. And it comes in a bunch of different types. I know these are the jacketed cables. I'll get to them in a second. But they have the same different type. Basically, anything that you can make into a panel using the handsaw, you can make into jacketed cables. And they run pretty much exactly the same as the insulated wire, except for the advantage of they don't have to be touching the ground. They can support themselves. Simple as that. Now this is the jacketed cable. Now the trick with the jacketed cable is you can't just connect things directly to it like I did with this little lever here, or with this piston here. You have to what's called knit it to something else. like I'm knitting it to the cables here. And basically all I did to do that was I put down the cable that I'm using onto the ground, and then I put the jacketed cable on top of it, and then they connect together. And now it acts just like one simple wire. Now these can do the same exact thing. If I throw down just a regular uninsulated wire, it connects. You can see it's connecting right there. And it connected right there. But the same cannot be said for insulated wires. You cannot knit jacketed wires. Let me try to keep these straight. You cannot knit jacketed wires to insulated wires, but you can knit jacketed cables to just regular cables. Now, I'm sure you're asking, can you do that with the color-coded? Well, let's find out. I would assume you can, and no, you cannot. You can only do it to the bundled cable. But since we found out that you could connect the colored ones to the bundled, then that's pretty much how you would have to do it. That's how you have to do it over here too. If you want to connect a jacketed wire to an insulated wire, you put an uninsulated wire down, and it will connect. So that's the same over here. You put a non-color-coded bundled cable down to connect to a color-coded bundle cable. Now, the jacketed cables work exactly the same as the just the regular bundled cabled. Whereas if I flick the red switch, the red cable activates, and if I flick the white switch, the white cable activates. And there is one other type of cable, well actually technically two, and that's the blue alloy wire and the jacketed blue wire. And I will go over them in a later episode when I'm talking about bluetricity. Basically, just to put it simply, they do exactly the same what their counterparts do, except they don't have different color coding. It's just blue electricity runs down the blue alloy wire, same with the jacketed blue wire. And that's it. Now these are some of the circuits that you can use from Redpower. And there are a lot of them that do a lot of different things and a lot of really cool things. Some of them you'll recognize if you know basic electronics and electricity, specifically something like a OR gate, or the NOR gate over there, or we have the, if I can ever find it, there's so many of them. You have the AND gate and the NAND gate, but I'll go over what they do just for everybody's benefit. This is the basic OR gate. That means if any one of these wires are activated, this wire will be activated. You can tell which side is the inputs and which side is the outputs because of this unpowered redstone torch right there. That's the output side. The others are the input side. So basically, if we activate any of them, we activate that piston. It does not go down if we activate all of them, because it's just a simple OR. Basically, if one of them works, it works. Simple as that. This is a NOR gate. Basically, it's the exact opposite of an OR gate. If any one of these are active, if any one of the inputs are active, the output is deactivated. So basically it's a OR gate with an inverter. And it's just that simple. This is an XOR gate. I call it a XOR gate. I don't know if that's actually what it's supposed to be called, but it is what I would expect an OR gate to act like, but obviously it's got its own different name, so it is an either-or kind of thing. It's one or the other, not both or not neither. So as we can see, both of them are off right now, and the piston is off. If I activate one, the piston activates. But if I activate both, the piston deactivates. And then if I deactivate the other one, the piston reactivates itself. So it's one or the other, not both. This one does not have 3 inputs. You cannot have 3 inputs going into this, just 2. This is an XNOR gate. This is the same as an OR gate, just the opposite. So basically when it's either or, it deactivates the signal. So if I activate this one, the piston shuts off. If I activate this one, the piston turns itself back on. Basically, if one of these cables is powered, that's not powered. But if neither of the cables are activated or both of the cables are activated, that is powered. Now this is an AND gate. Basically it does pretty much what it sounds like. It's AND. This, and this, and this. So if I just activate one, nothing happens. If I just activate the second one, nothing happens. If I activate the third one, it activates. So all 3 have to be active. Now this is useful if you're doing like an adventure style map where somebody has to go to this room and activate this lever, and then go to this room and then activate this lever, and then go to that room and activate this lever, and then the door opens. That's what this is designed for. Now if you're in a situation where you find that you just need one, or if you just need 2 basically, a simple 2-way AND gate, well, that's simple. You take this one, put it wherever it needs to go, you take that one, put it to wherever it needs to go, and then you take that one, put it to a lever, and flick it on. And then that way you only have 2 to turn on. And this is a NAND gate. It's the exact opposite of an AND gate. So if all of them are off, or just 1 or 2 are on, this is on. If all 3 are on, this is off. So it's an AND with an inverter attached to it. Now you might be asking, okay, how about an XAND or an XNAND? Well, technically they don't exist. They're covered over here by the XOR and XNOR. Next one we have, I thought was pretty interesting. I had to look it up to see exactly what it did, is a bus transceiver. Now this one's fairly interesting. It has 4 sides to it, 2 signal sides, and then 2 input-output sides. Now you have to use the bundled cable. This does not work with regular insulated cable or just the uninsulated wire. And what it is it will control which direction the signal can pass through. Like right now, both these are off. And you could tell by the little tiny lights here. So if I flick this one off, we can see that that light turned on. With both off, all signals are blocked. So if I flick this switch, nothing happens. I flick this switch, nothing happens. Now, depending on which side you have activated, will determine which direction the signal can go through. Like if I flick this one on, and I go over here, nothing happens. But if I go over here, that piston activated because the signal went that way. And the same is said for the other side. If I flick this switch, nothing happens. But if I flick this switch, that piston activates because now the signal's going that way. Now there's also another neat little trick it can do. If you activate both sides, that side's active, that side's active. If I flick this lever, that piston goes up. So the signal's coming this direction. But if I flip this lever, that piston goes up. That means signal's also going in that direction. But if I turn off the levers, they don't turn off. Because what's supposed to be happening is the signal's getting caught up in this loop here, keeping both activated. As we can see coming out of here, we can see that that red wire is still active, and so is the white wire. But the second I turn off even one of the signals, both turn off because there's no active redstone signal anywhere else anymore. This is a toggle latch, or what I'm reading elsewhere is called a T flip-flop. And the reason it's called a flip-flop is because when you send a signal down its input wire, it will switch between outputting a signal from that side to that side. So if I push the button, we see that that piston went down and that piston went up because this little lever changed. If I push it again, it goes back. Now this is useful if you have, say, a door that does two different things. On one side, it shuts the door, but on the other side, it pushes the blocks out of the way to open the door. So if you have like a 3-wide door, and you're not, able to do the whole piston trick to get them to pull out properly, you can shove them out of the way and then pull the pistons back. And that's a complicated circuit, but it works. Another thing that I do, this is what I do with it. I just use it like that. So that way I can have just a basic signal going out, and I use it to open and close my doors with a button instead of a lever. Like you can do the same exact thing with the lever, but with the T flip-flop, which of course is backwards, got to make sure it's pointing in the right direction. This is the input side, and these are the two output sides. It's kind of a pain in the butt. But yeah, with just the button set up, it looks better. You don't have this lever sticking out anywhere. Now this is also if you see other YouTube videos where somebody, say, has a walkway that they push a button and then the walkway comes up. And if you've ever wondered how they do it without the walkway just falling back down when the button spits back out, that's how they do it. They make a T flip-flop. And this can also be done in regular Minecraft. It's just a lot more complicated to do and takes up a lot more space. This is a pulse former. And all it's really designed to do is the second it gets signal coming in from its input side, it outputs a very quick pulse. So no matter how long the input side stays powered, the output side will only output one rapid pulse. I can show that here. Now we see the piston went up and then right back down, even though the lever is still activated. Now we saw this work, that I used this for the teleporters to avoid the jumping back and forth problem that got me kicked out of the server. This is a NOT gate. Now think of it, I don't know why it's called a NOT gate, maybe that's a technical term for it. I call it an inverter. Basically, whatever this signal is, whatever the input signal is, the output signals are not. So I have nothing on the input signal, so I have something on the output signal. Exact opposite is true is if I turn on the input signal. Simple as that. It's just a simple inverter with 1 input, 3 outputs. Kind of useful. You can definitely see use for that. I use that with a light sensor, which I'll show off here shortly, to have basically lights turn on when the sun goes down. Which, you know what? Let's show that off right now. This is the light sensor. And basically it does exactly what it advertises. It detects the surrounding light level. Obviously it's the middle of the day, so we're getting plenty of light, thus the line is activated. But if we switch to night, we see that it's still activated. But why is that? That's because right here our light level is 15. Maybe I'm translating that wrong. But there's light coming from over there with the redstone there and the, well, mostly the moon, probably. But that's because this is very sensitive. You can change that with a screwdriver or the sonic screwdriver. You hold shift and you right click and it will change how sensitive it is. A couple different degrees too. Like that right there will only be noticeable in the middle of the day, the brightest light level possible. But that you could set off with glowstone fairly easily. And obviously wide open, it notices moonlight. So just varying degrees of light levels, fairly useful. And like I said, I combined this with a NOT gate and set it up so that some of my buildings have lights. So they automatically turn on when the sun goes down. Of course, I have to have it set up like that for it to work, but it works. Oh, and I also found this out. I just found this out. If you're not holding shift when you right click, it rotates the block. So what I was doing wherever with the T flip-flop where I kept putting it down, picking it up, putting it down, picking it up, putting it down, you don't have to do that. You can just use the screwdriver. Sure, that makes life a lot easier. This is the simple repeater, or just like the regular Minecraft repeater slash diode, depending on what you call it and how early you were playing Minecraft. Except this has more delay settings. If you right click on it, you can choose between quite a few different delay settings. So like right here, I bet you I know. I have it backwards. Yep, that was it. Yeah, right there, almost instantaneous. But if we crank it up the whole way, we can see that we have quite a bit of delay. Now I use one of these in a trap that I have set up. Basically you run down a bunch of stairs, it gets really dark, and at the very bottom of the stairs there's a bunch of stone pressure plates that you can't see because it's so dark. The second you step on the stone pressure plates, it activates one of these repeaters and a very long delay. And then you start running down the hallway towards this door that's there. And after you get to usually about halfway, the floor just opens out from underneath you and you fall down this great giant pit. And that's all I'm going to cover for this particular episode. Stay tuned. I will be putting out a second episode, at least one more, for the rest of the neat little gizmos that Redpower adds for the circuit tree. Plus, of course, there's the pneumatic tubes and the Redpower machines and all the other neat little stuff that Redpower does. Now that I'm learning about it, I love it. I love Redpower. It's great. So, I will see you guys in the next episode. Have fun.